and welcome to episode 356 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, a place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. I'm Vince Hunt, and joining me as always is the creator of the webcomic Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
And he's the one that, if they remade Play Misty for me, he'd be the voice on the radio. It's Tony Esmond.
That's nice. Thank you.
Anyone who's seen that 1970s Clint Eastwood film will know that... Yes, Tony's...
Thank God they haven't remade that, have they?
No.
Thank fuck for that.
Yeah. I don't know how they could now, though, could they?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, different thing, innit? Yeah.
Maybe we should do a remake of it on this show. But
how do you stalk people, Vince? Just online now, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's just exclusively online. But I use shell accounts. Anyway, this week we're also... We're joined by that.
It's not quite the ultimate, is it?
This week, we're joined by the writer of such titles as The Catalyst, The Little Deaths of Watson Tower, Fairy Fair, and his latest is the spectacular and fun Death of a Necromancer. Yes, he's been quite busy over the past couple of years. It's our pleasure to welcome Nick Bryan to the show. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Nick. Now, we've spoken to you a couple of times. Yeah, you probably... loyal listeners will I don't know why I said it like that, like I was intimidating people who aren't loyal listeners. Some at some conventions and the Thought Bubble Digital Convention. This is the first time that you've been on the show proper, Nick, and I'm not going to say that you are a bad influence, but the moment you turned up on our Zoom call, we just turned...
We're talking about a rude sexual practice.
Just to be clear, Nick had nothing to do with it. He literally turned up on the call.
You say that now.
It was not the first words I heard.
Was a weird
coincidence.
It was a weird coincidence that we used that phrase and suddenly appeared. Yeah. It's a bit like Candyman.
Yeah. 3 times.
Yeah.
You definitely did.
Yeah. Let's not beat around the bush. If you say pegging 3 times, Nick appears.
No.
That's what happened.
No. No. Oh dear.
I'm saying coincidence, so Nick, I'm on your side, mate.
Yeah. We're always on Nick's side because
good talk, guys. Bye.
And that's the record. Yes, Nick's with us for the whole show to talk about comics, maybe some crowdfunding talk because this is a dude who knows how to do it properly, and also just joining on the madness. We've got a few things that were
might talk some humble bundles as well.
Oh
yes.
Which, if you don't know what a humble bundle is, it's nothing. It's nothing rude. We will be talking. We've never really
thought it was until you said that.
Someone's. Do you think it's when you say it's not rude that everyone immediately thinks of something rude?
What could it be? What could it be if it was rude? I did a humble bundle all over it. I don't know what that
means.
Crumbs.
Someone came up to me and said, "I'd like to show you my humble bundle." Yeah, it could be
yes,
anything.
exactly.
Could be anything.
And she went, "That ain't so humble."
I tell you who is humble though. That's the lovely people at Comic House who are our sponsor, and they love indie comics as much as the rest of us. And quite a few people who have been on this show or will be on the show have books on the Comic House site. There's a huge selection of titles on the database. If you self-publish yourself, you can list your book on there. It's another avenue to get your work out there, as well as get your work on the app, which is brilliant. It had some technical issues for a couple of days this past week.
Weekend, wasn't it? It had an issue on Saturday, is that right?
Yeah, I think so. But we're all cooking with gas, and I see there's
nothing
a whole...
that affected us.
No. There's a whole load of... When I logged back onto it, it seemed like there was stuff being added all the time, and there was a fresh load.
Although Pete did message me saying, this isn't a coincidence that you've recently put some of your filth on there.
Oh, yeah, it's true. Yeah, you are a Trojan.
Got one in my wallet.
Oh my God! Don't email us about that, folks. But what?
Please do.
What other stuff is there on at the moment, Dan?
We've got the Wilder Shore Volume 1, Comic Scene Annual 2021. That's got a whole host of artists and writers appearing in that one, including me.
Nice.
For, Project Hoax Midnight Monster Hunter.
Is that in there, is it?
That's in there. You've got History of Comics 1977 from Comics Flix. We've got The Monsters Cleanup Guy Issue 1, which sounds interesting. I'm sure that's come across that before. The story synopsis is Terry works the monster community. He's their cleanup guy, covering up their misdeeds in order to keep the monsters a secret. Terry only operates by 2 rules. Listen to the Lycan King's orders and don't kill any monsters. And finally, last but not least, we've got Atomic Hercules.
Hey,
Hercules Goes Commandos. I reread that today.
that's what caused it. Oh, you sent me a little laugh.
There's
Yeah,
absolute
thank you,
fucking joy just rereading that.
mate. Thank you.
The Fred the Nonce character. I know he's popped up in a couple of comics, but
Yeah,
that's kind of
not just by me, by another couple of other people. Yeah.
he's appeared in Vanguard.
Old FTN. We love FTN, don't we?
God.
So
That's FTN, not NFTs.
Yeah.
enjoy
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And the synopsis for that is never cheat at cards. It may cause you to get stabbed, die, and poo yourself. Not in that order. Written by Tony Esmond, art by everything else by Adam Falp.
You know when you're presented with that thing where it says write a little summary, you know, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, what do I write? I just wrote that. You know,
Yeah,
sums it up. Doesn't it?
does the job.
Yeah.
So you can read all that and more on Comic House.
And if you want a sticker of a man pooing himself, you can go to tributepress.com.
Listen,
wouldn't want
don't
that.
jump in on this sponsorship ad with your own advertising. Disgraceful. I mean,
Terrible,
I haven't even
I'm not
got.
paying you.
I haven't even gotten to the point where basically it's like
Oh, here we go.
only £3 a month and you get access to all those comics and more, you know, and and you can go to comichouse.com to find out more about the service, the site, and your 14-day free trial. So check it out today. See, that's how you do it. You know what I mean?
Professional.
Yeah. I put the pro in the fesh. No, hang on, that's a bit
What?
weird.
I showed you two words on a comic earlier, and it said the fish, and all three of you thought it said fetish.
Yes. Which
I think that says more about the design as opposed to.
Yes, your minds,
Yes,
your dirty
yeah,
minds.
yes.
Yeah.
I feel we may have to post this cover somewhere so that
Yeah,
so
I'll put
that
it on
listeners,
Slack.
so that listeners have context to what we're talking about. Because Nick, Dan, and myself all thought it said fetish, and Tony had bought it, so I guess we just
There's that
put two and
connection
two
in your
together.
minds.
Yeah. But it wasn't a crowdfunded book, was it, Tony? You just found
It
that
was
one?
not. I don't think it was. No, it came with a free print.
No.
It was quite expensive. It was £10. I don't know why I bought it, but I did.
What?
I know. Yep.
Oh my god. Anyway, God, I'm getting so
We'll
grumpy.
be talking about pricing soon. Hold on to your hats.
Yeah. Like I say, we're going to kick off. We're going to kickstart this chat.
Nice.
Thank you.
No,
Thank
no.
you. I'll be here all night. Please.
Nick, you still there? Stay, please.
Yeah, don't worry, still here. Just stress the sidekick character Fred in Death of a Necromancer is not Fred the Nonce. That's a different Fred.
Different Fred. Thank you.
Oh God! Just every Fred in every comic.
I'd like to point out, nobody's ever asked me that, but the character is based on Bod. Do you remember Bod, the cartoon
do,
character?
God.
That's who he's based on.
But that's what year is that from?
1932. I don't know when it's from. 70s, 60s?
Yeah, I think it's
I don't know.
70s, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't he the one that spat at the screen and then wrote his name? Is that the one?
No,
No,
that was
no,
Pob.
Pod. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That spitting wasn't needed, was it?
No. Spitting's never needed.
I was in a bar earlier with my son, and they had Punk IPA, and my son thinks he's funny. He's quite funny. He said to the barman, he says, "What do you do? Serve that, then spit in it."
What did
He probably did after that.
Yeah.
Did the barman have a sense of humour?
He smashed the glass. The glass.
Yeah.
went.
So what,
That's
mate?
punk for you.
Yeah, that's pretty
Oh,
punk.
bloody hell, that's one hell of a Sunday roast.
Oh, not the kind you like.
What's
happening?
happening?
What's happening?
What's happening?
Back on this.
Again, we've got a high-profile guest next week.
Nick's like, back on this, are we?
Yeah. We've still got a high-profile guest next week, and we're just doing this again. We're ruining it for ourselves.
No, we are here. Right, let's get back onto the topic.
Although we haven't got a high-profile guest this week. Sorry, Nick. Apologies.
I was listening to last week's episode. At the very end, one of you was like, "Oh, we've got a high-profile guest next week." Then someone immediately corrected them. Was like, "No, that's the week after."
No. Yeah, we're
Okay, that's something.
I'm in you.
We love you, Nick. That's why you're here.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
Yeah, we
literally,
love you, fetish fans.
Literally, if people are on this show, it's because we like them.
Yeah.
But don't think that if you're not on the show, it's because we don't like you.
I was going to say that can be.
Although it might
deduced
be.
from that.
Yeah. Actually, I'm not quite sure what to say. Maybe I'll edit this bit out. No, I won't. But let's kickstart the chat once again.
Nice.
Nice.
Done it again. Nice.
Thanks. Yeah. twice in a show. No, because obviously crowdfunding is in a strange place, I would say. Considering like
you think?
You look back on like 3 years ago, and I know Nick, you've been sort of crowdfunding your books for a couple of years. You know,
more than that, I'm going to say, Nick, how long you're
I think it's a bit short of that. The first one was October 2020. It was my it was late pandemic. It was and it snowed. My first one with Rob Ahmed.
That was your first, was it?
Right.
Well, actually, no, my first one on Kickstarter. We did the Catalyst before that.
Yeah. So, but over the past couple of years, I know if you've listened to this show, we've talked about Kickstarters a fair old bit, and certainly the topic of Kickstarters has been very strange over the past couple of years. I will hold my hand up and I say I don't know everything about it because I go outside and I live my life. No.
Wow.
Here we go.
No. I didn't mean that.
I've got a girlfriend.
I didn't mean that.
Off again.
I didn't mean that. No, what I mean is I am blissfully ignorant of a lot of details about things. But certainly we've talked to many creators who know how to kickstart properly, and I think Nick, you're one of them, aren't you? I mean, I think you've just this is one of the first times you've just finished the campaign for Death of a Necromancer, haven't you?
Yeah, about a week ago. Yeah, week and a bit.
Have you
already
recovered?
received it though? Haven't we? See, that's how cool you are. Already had it through.
Well, yeah. Although obviously, because I still have 3 more chapters to do before I've actually finished the comic, due to the fact that this is, the whole graphic novel huge scale thing.
Okay. Yes.
So, just a little bit of detail about that sort of comic and campaign. Because like you say, we've got a first chapter, but what was your plan for that Kickstarter?
Well, during the pandemic, I wrote a whole like 100-page story in one go, and I don't know. At first, I was considering doing it one issue at a time, I guess in the normal sort of Kickstarter miniseries way. But I'd seen a few people do these sort of whole book campaigns. Like I think you had, was it Jason McNamara with Ghostbound?
Yes,
did something very similar.
Yeah,
like very similar. I'm basically using the same model as him. Also, a guy I know from America, Doug Wood, had a book called Ultramax on Kickstarter, which you might have seen, which was again the same setup, sort of no print single issues, just like a PDF subscription type setup where we send the PDFs through for each chapter, and then the only thing we print at the end is the book.
What's the one I backed from Keanu Reeves? He did that, didn't he?
Berserker.
That was the same. Yeah.
I don't think you backed it from Keanu Reeves. I think other people were doing the campaign.
Isn't it him speaking to me in emails every other day?
No, it's not. I think some people don't realise that, but I don't think he has anything to do with that.
He said he had a conversation on the phone about it. I've heard him say that.
Oh, okay.
That counts, doesn't it?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That launched the exact same day as my first Kickstarter.
Great. Yeah.
Oh God,
It really
what was that like?
Pushed me a couple of rungs down the ladder. That one. I mean, I got to do a lot of jokes about it on Twitter, but yeah, it was a bit weird.
It's an angle to use, isn't it, Nick? Yeah.
People that launched their Kickstarter campaign and then Kickstarter come out with that blockchain thing. There's cheers. Yeah. Thanks.
Well, yeah, because we were miles along with Necromancer by then. That was it early December they announced that? And by then, Robert was drawing chapter 2 of Necromancer. And I'd, obviously, as people who are listening to this probably know, I'd already obviously chucked quite a lot of money towards getting the whole thing more or less drawn, or most of the way drawn. And then they announced they were doing this, and I sort of.
So, what was your thought process around that, man? I mean, did you waver and consider other platforms, or
did a bit? I think if I had been doing it as single issues, I think maybe I would have tried Zoop or something. I'm not sure, but I think the scale of it just made that kind of hard. I think because this is the biggest target I've done by like some way. The previous one was Fairy Fair, which was like 1,500, and this was 5,000. So I kind of needed all the help I could get. I needed to have the slightly bigger ecosystem, the access to all my past backers, all that stuff. I just needed to. Yeah, I didn't think not using Kickstarter was really an option at that point.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, man. So you're using your previous Kickstarter, as a lot of people do, to mail out, say, by the way, I've got this new project, sort of thing.
Yeah, but I don't actually know whether Kickstarter would care if I had done it on Zoop or whatever and had just mailed all my previous backers through those campaigns and said, "Hey guys, come to my Zoop." I don't know.
Well, we've done it for a pre-order. Obviously, when we got cancelled, we got cancelled on Kickstarter for our project. They threw us off. We used the previous Kickstarters to mail people to say, look for this pre-order. And we never got any feedback. We never got anything bad back from them about it. Yeah, so I don't think they keep an eye on it that much.
No, I think the thing with the pre-orders though, that's beneficial to a lot of the people who, especially if you're just a one-man band who's just creating this comic and you're in control of everything. But when certainly when you're paying for artists from across the world or things like that, and sometimes a Kickstarter goes into it. And the pre-order system sort of stops a lot of those creators. Like some people who just will say, I'm not using Kickstarter anymore, they will find it difficult to fund
our
books.
Pre-orders were about 2/3 of the number we got from Kickstarter. That makes sense, because you're on an open and easy to view, and lots of people just go to it and surf, as opposed to actually following a link to a pre-order.
I mean, there's certainly times when I've backed stuff off of surfing alone, just gone, have a look,
too, man.
and then there we go. That is great.
I mean, sort of hope that some of these other platforms might come up to that. I mean, like to mention Zoop again, if that actually takes off and becomes like a crowdfunding site just for comics, which actually has an audience cruising through it for comics, then that sounds good.
I'm all with them, man. I'm into that competition. Yeah,
definitely.
What is Zoop? Because I'm blissfully unaware.
It's is it Zoop.com? It's Zoop or Zoop.gg or something. It's basically a crowdfunding site which is just comics. Yeah, it's Zoop.gg. I was right somehow. Yeah, so there's nothing but comics on it, and it's quite small at the moment because it's only been going. I think it had actually started a few months before the blockchain thing happened.
Yes,
but obviously I think they've tried to capitalize quite heavily on that and expand quite quickly to get people who want an alternative.
Yeah,
gotcha.
And like Tony said, fundamentally some form of competition would be good. It would be great if they could actually take off and succeed. So
totally, yeah. I mean, did you consider at all using Indiegogo?
No, I didn't. Partly because I'm aware that a lot of people have even more against Indiegogo than they do against Kickstarter's blockchain thing, just because of a lot of the comics that run it being slightly right-wing or perceived as being slightly right-wing, and partly because I find the whole you get the money whether you succeed or not thing quite weird.
Yeah, I actually think that's a misapprehension about Indiegogo, because there's a lot else going on there. But I think there are certain groups who are on there that but a lot of them do very successfully.
I mean, I've certainly seen fallbacks, like, oh, my Kickstarter didn't work, and then an Indiegogo pops up because they'll get the money. If it doesn't make it. And
there's certain people who run two, isn't there? They've run it for both the projects. Yeah.
Well, I think because it's definitely a different audience. I thought that was because kind of that was they were made not welcome on Kickstarter, so they went to Indiegogo, and then this kind of division thing happened, which is always really helpful for us to have two factions. I mean, two factions arguing. When do we ever have that? But it doesn't do us any real favors in comics, I don't think.
Yeah. I think the thing that lets me down, I've backed a couple of movie books and stuff on Indiegogo. There's like a kung fu movie poster book I'm still waiting for, etc. But the reason I don't access it as much as I access Kickstarter, for example, is because they don't have an app. I actually find the app on Kickstarter much more useful. So, if you're sitting there doing the morning business, you can have a scroll through, see what the projects are on there.
But is that also like useful as someone who has a Kickstarter campaign?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
because I haven't got the Kickstarter app. I'll browse it sometimes, like on the browser.
There's a link
on my
off
phone.
Twitter or something. Yeah.
And that usually ends up to me thinking, oh, what are the rewards? Oh, no, that's too much. I can't.
The dark side of having an app also is that when you're running a Kickstarter, you check it every 45 seconds.
I mean, you don't need the app. I never installed the app, and I did that anyway. It became very much a first thing in the morning, last thing at night thing. It was incredibly
you control
unhealthy.
Yourself. You didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's quite good.
How has that changed how has your experience changed from your the first time you did a Kickstarter to this one you've just finished? Did that lessen? Did you feel more comfortable with it?
It lessens a lot between my first and second ones, I think. I think I was a lot less uptight during my second one, which was a similar-ish target for another single issue. I think this one being a lot bigger did sort of bring a lot of those feelings flooding back. I mean, the thing is, the sort of the graph of it. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to go into my exciting statistics too much, but the a lot of Kickstarter campaigns, the sort of generic way a lot of people talk about them is there's a spike, there's a long, quite flat bit, and then there's another spike.
Yeah.
And this one on my graph, or if you go to kicktrack.com, you can see the graph there. Mine was there was a bit of a spike, and then it sort of climbed very slowly and steadily. I think I went from I got just over 1,000 on the first day, and then it sort of crawled up to 4,000 over the course of the month before having another massive jump in the last few days.
That's fantastic. I mean, I can send, when you bring up that some people was like, well, I'm going to have to do a shorter campaign, because if it dies during the middle and all the money's made at the beginning and end, rather than have a month, I'll do 2 weeks and
I know
get the same money.
John does that. John Tucker does 2 weeks, doesn't he? I know. Like, we did a 2 week on ours. I'd say as well. The thing is, because you're a buddy of ours, Nick, and we were on the Slack, and we really desperately wanted yours to succeed. I do look at my friends' ones as well. My buddies, to see how they're doing. And I'm guilty of seeing that, because I know you had a little bit of not too bad, because you made a lot of money on yours and very successful, but you had a little bit of a nail biter in the last, I'm going to say 10 days, maybe something like that. Is that right? From memory?
Something like that. I mean, there's a couple of points where it seemed to stall out around like 2,000, 3,000, which I think was just the worst part. I think from about a week before the end, it seemed pretty inevitable we get there somehow. It was just this sort of, like I say, it was this slow, steady crawl upwards. And I was a bit sort of, okay, this is going the right way. And if it keeps going this way, then I'll be fine. But Jesus Christ, if it stops for longer than about 2 days, I'm suddenly in trouble. Which didn't really help with the refreshing.
I mean, if you'd have got to the point, with 4 hours to go, where you were a couple of £100 off it, you'd have put a couple of £100 in yourself, surely, wouldn't you? That's surely the way it works, isn't it? Because you get 180 quid back,
Yeah. I mean, I think to circumvent Kickstarter, you'd have to get one of your friends to stooge it in or something. But I'm sure people must do that.
You see that happening all the time. I saw one recently for a convention, and that was like going nowhere and needed £1,000. And then within the last 4 hours, suddenly it was £20 over the top,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I really need some actual money to do a whole mini series, so I guess you have to just weigh up what point it's actually worth doing.
Yeah, exactly. Is it selling or is it not selling? Is the question I suppose you got to ask yourself. And
I think once it got over about halfway, which was indeed about halfway through the campaign, you sort of have to sort of think, okay, I really hope this gets to the end now, because I really don't want to have to do all this again. Scratch from zero.
Yeah, I get you.
And there's obviously there's lots of factors to doing any sort of crowdfunding campaign, but I think probably now more than ever, especially now that everyone's sort of looking at costs, living costs or etc. are flying up. So it's very much value for money. It's something that's always come up on this show, as well it bloody well should when it comes to comics,
because it's rare.
And but also value for money with comics Kickstarter for me doesn't just come in just the product itself. I think there is also like a nature of the communication with the audience, with the buyers, and what I like about, like, for instance, this model that you've picked up, Nick, is like the overall project is like it's an OGN. It's a graphic novel, isn't it? It's like a collection. But you're doing this, as you mentioned earlier, like a kind of like a subscription, where the people that back it will get the chapters, for want of a better term, of this book, whilst so you're still delivering something to them as soon as possible, rather than thanks for your money, and then everything goes dark for 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I say, this is the first time I've had to actually, go away and make something after the campaign finished, rather than just finishing it all beforehand, waiting till the campaign finishes and then immediately flushing it straight out.
But you very wisely had the first third ready to go, didn't you? I'm guessing, is that right?
Yeah, the first chapter, the first quarter, was ready to go when it, as soon as it finished. Yeah, partly so I had something to send to like reviewers during the campaign, and partly just because, I like to be able to send people something as soon as we finished, just for the reassurance.
I think comics especially is a very hard sell to do a Kickstarter thing on it, and you've got nothing to show. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, if you we're going to make this once it's done. You try and get at least 4 pages to show.
Oh, mate, at least. I mean, I think we're more canny now. Do you remember a lot of the projects early on were, look, these are the designs of the characters we're going to be putting in our story? We saw quite a lot of that to start with, didn't we? And I'm always a bit suspicious of that now. Once bitten, twice shy around that sort of thing, I think.
Yeah, but I have a lot of financial sympathy, I guess, for people who can't afford to make the entire comic before the Kickstarter starts. I mean, luckily I just definitely about can, but I could for it was single issues. I couldn't for this, but yeah.
It can be expensive. I mean, it's real expensive. I was kind of bemoaning. Well, I asked on Twitter, has anyone got any tips? And one of the things that is don't overprice that first your comic on the PDF, because some campaigns I've looked at and it's they've asked for $10 for a 21-page comic, and it's I know this the production costs might be behind this, but passing that amount onto the reader or purchaser or consumer is just not viable.
Yeah, if it's not worth it, you can't charge that much. It's a piss take. And I know people say, well, you can't put a price on art. You can put a price on comics.
Yeah.
But I felt a bit weird about charging £10 for the PDF subscription, but at least that's for a whole miniseries, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
And that's
£2.50 issue.
That's £2.50 an issue.
Yeah.
That's a standard. That's a standard price.
Yeah,
I mean that's not. Certainly we say the £5 for I think there's a lot of us who have probably been stung by getting. I'll get the digital one. £5 a little bit pricey, but I'll do it. And then when you get the PDF, you're like, what? £5 for this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that age old how long does it take to read it? And when you blast through it, you're like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
We did that little experiment recently, didn't we? And it's not long, is it? When you get the money you're getting for your experience, the cost for your experience.
Yeah.
But thankfully, with Nick's book, there's plenty of story in just chapter 1.
It's not a short read, yours.
No.
Yeah.
I did notice in Kickstarter as well. I always wonder how this works. So for someone who knows nothing, which as always is me, once the Kickstarter's finished, where you would have when the campaign finishes, instead of where it would sort of say campaign is over or fully funded, there's a little button that says buy chapter 1 in PDF now.
Yeah. So
it almost works as a mini shop for you. Is that how that kind of works as well? If people, for instance, people who listen to this who missed out on the campaign,
is that a new thing with them?
I've been able to do it for the last campaign or two. But I think it's relatively new. You can sort of edit the text on your campaign after it's finished and add those little buttons.
Oh, right. That's good. That's good, because I know that's one of the things that Indiegogo has always had over Kickstarter, isn't it? Because it remains as a store for a certain amount of time.
Yes, you can go back and get it if you missed out on the campaign. There's tons of times when I've either forgotten to do something or seen something too late. Oh, shit, I wish I'd have fucking got in on that.
Yeah. So that must be a really useful tool as well, Nick, because when the campaign's obviously finished, the work is still churning ahead, but at the same time, a creator can't forget about selling the book. You know what I mean? And to have that sort of link to be able to sort of say, oh, this book you can buy chapter 1 here. There's still something for you to direct people to. Is that something you're planning to do as well? Still. Because you still got to market the campaign. I think sometimes people forget about this when they have a Kickstarter campaign. They think, for the month, I'm just going to sell it. And then once it's done, they just don't talk about the comic anymore.
Oh, yeah. I mean, issues 2, 3, and 4 are going to be... Yeah, I'll probably send them out to the backers and give them about a week or two of, sweet exclusivity.
Yeah.
But then...
sweet.
Oh, I like that phrase. Yeah. I mean, that's one of my big bugbears. I wrote a list of things, do's and don'ts, when I knew we were going to talk about this. My one is sending it out to the backers first. And we see that. So we still see that. The moans that have gone over the years about it being available in previews or it being on the shelf in the comic shop long before the backers have received it. That still does get my back up. If it gets done to me by a person once, I won't back them again.
Yeah.
That happens with a few more publishers. Whenever publishers step into this,
yeah,
this sort of crowdfunding.
Yeah. It started with that Scott Snyder. Is it Nocturna? That book.
Yeah.
The issue 3 was on. If issue 3 was on the shelves before my issue arrived.
I think the most famous one that I can think of recently is that Maddie one.
Oh yeah, that was a bad one, wasn't it? The dirtbag one.
Yeah, that really kind of. That basically they just kind of scolded the people who'd backed the book, saying don't worry about it, and it's well, they got a right to worry. They fucking backed the fucking thing.
Yeah, it's a real difficult situation for creators as well, isn't it? Especially if you've got other people handling your Kickstarter.
Yeah, well, that falls onto the creator ultimately because they picked those people to do that job for them.
Yeah.
Would you say that? I know that's a controversial opinion.
No. I think you're right. I think in some, it's totally.
You make sure it's done right.
Yeah.
If it's your project, you make sure it's done right.
But sometimes publishers may be like, "Oh, we're going to do this on Kickstarter to a creator," and it's not necessarily in the creator's hands. There's probably one or two. Yeah. So the publisher needs to. There is a level of responsibility to a Kickstarter.
I think perhaps what the learning point of that is, if it does happen, don't then go on and slag people off on Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, I try not to look at the Kickstarter stuff as like a pre-order for a product. Like sometimes it might not work out, and I'm putting some money into an endeavor that might not. I mean, you got big warnings on it now before you. Yeah,
that's been added in the last year or so, isn't it?
I think sometimes though, with a lot of creators and like Nick, with your past projects, like the comics were pretty much done, weren't they? So this is a bigger project, so naturally. There's it's a longer project to work on, but in the past you funded it and then fairly soon the book is in people's hands, isn't it? It's already done. Is that how you've worked before?
The previous two, it was a single issue and it was entirely finished before I started the Kickstarter. So I just the only thing I was waiting on really was for it to fund and to know how many copies I needed to print, and then
that's what we've done. The other thing we've done is we've had an eye already, so we have a conversation, me and Adam, before we press go, to say, look, we're expecting possibly 2 stretch goals, so we've got this ready to go and we can do this, So I think that's also a thing, not just having the comic ready, but having an expectation or a possible guess at how far you're going to go in relation to funding and whether you need to do any stretch goals.
Yeah. How about this for a question though, and we'll start off with Nick, because talking about the amount of copies you need to print, I think that's very interesting, because if you're printing this book. Okay, devil's advocate, I'm just going to step away. Like, instead of I'm just going to ask the question: should you look at this project as a Kickstarter project to be like, I'm going to print this book for the people that back it, or should you be like, there's that, but I also want a decent stock to take to my convention tables?
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it?
It's the second one, isn't it? I mean,
I did the second one.
Yeah.
So, but with that, you have to be responsible to your backers first, haven't you?
Yeah, you've got to have a buffer amount in there, haven't they? We've seen this recently, haven't we?
Yeah. So how do you figure that out? Because whenever I look at Kickstarter, I think, God bless you all who have done it. And I'm talking to everyone that's on this podcast with me right now, because everyone else has done one. But it's like, how do you figure out, okay, here's what we want to comfortably make this book as best as it can be, but to have how many copies do you look at having for future shows?
It depends. You've got to go by what you're doing at the time and what shows are coming up and stuff, and what's the likelihood of selling more. I think we tend to, we'll print a load, we'll have enough to do the next couple of shows, we'll have enough for the postage, and we'll have a buffer amount, in case postage goes up. What a strange coincidence that might be. Because it goes up all the time.
That's
at the moment.
year on year. It goes up.
Yeah, you got to be prepared for that. And then the rest, because I don't make any money out of our Kickstarters, the rest goes to Adam for drawing it. And that's how it works with us,
Yeah. How does it work for you, Nick?
I think the last couple I printed about twice as many as I need to fund the Kickstarter, in the hope that'll keep me going at conventions for a while. And because usually when you're talking about printing, more copies means a lower price per copy. So it's usually worth it in the end. I usually talk to my printer, who's Rich from CPUK, and it usually works out better that way.
Yeah. I mean, the more you print, the lower the unit cost will be.
Yeah.
So you kind of, to be fair, when you're doing a Kickstarter, you get to the end of the campaign, you find out how many comics you've got to send out. You can get a rough idea on shipping by. You work out roughly, because you're going to have got to that point. You've worked out shipping for the UK. There might be a couple of stragglers that are overseas, which are fucking a lot of money. But you should have a rough idea of how much you're going to be able to order, but still cover your bases so all your backers are sorted.
And you've also got to keep money back, because, for example, you post something to America and it goes missing. What do you do then? You got to say, we resend.
Yeah, I'll just resend immediately.
Yeah. I mean, if the same person loses it 3 times or something, I might start to get a bit.
Call the FBI. But I know what you mean.
But so far I just resend. It's never been a problem.
It's the nice thing to do, man, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, you risk kind of losing that reader. if not like someone who would back it again. And over
And
what? Like,
I
it's
think
not their fault.
We're not looking to be millionaires. I'm sure I speak for you as well, Nick. You know, we're not. You know, we're partly, mostly into this because we enjoy it. You know,
really looking to
and
make
keeping
comics.
those people, liking people to enjoy our comics and liking to keep them on board and come for
Yeah,
fun.
I mean, a lot of people listening could probably, you know, my target for a whole mini-series, which is like a mini-series with a writer, an artist, a colorist, and a letterer. My target was $5,000. It may, if you know much about comic economics, it costs more than $5,000 to make that mini-series. I'm very much doing this for the love here.
Yeah, exactly.
The $5,000 is just to make it, you know, vaguely viable and possible.
It doesn't hurt too much.
Fortunately for me, like I can do the writer art, but like if you're the writer and you're hiring a comic artist, that can be fucking expensive.
Yeah, I mean,
Really
I'm doing one at the moment. I mean, you, Vince, and Dan are involved in it, and it's I'm going to make a loss on it, but I'm just doing it because I really like the process, and you know, we're having a real laugh doing it. You know,
and we can't talk about this Kickstarter without talking about the great work of Robert Ahmed. Who's just
he's really improving as well, man. I think he's you know, you can see him with every comic we see from him.
Love his work. Love his work. How did you come about sort of working with him originally? Because you've worked a couple of times now, haven't you?
Well, up to a few times now. He's one of the first artists I worked with back in 2017. I found him on the Miller World forum back when that existed. There was the Miller World forum had a creative corner forum or something where artists would post their work and often post some of their pages and say they were looking to do comics. And I found Rob's stuff there and got in touch. And we did a 4-page Christmas short story, which people can read on my website if they want. Rob is always very self-effacing about his earlier work, and obviously, like you say, he's come a long way. I still think the early stuff's pretty good though.
Yeah, I see it's good. Yeah, it's good quality.
People that are self-effacing about their work normally you look at it and go, Jesus Christ, I wish I could do this.
Also, the sort of people we like, to be fair.
Good. But no, Rob's great. Yeah, his work is very sort of maximum effective, minimum line. You know, he does a lot.
Yes,
with
there's a
very
J-Bone quality to him, isn't there? I think. Darwin Cookish, sort of that corner of the world. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, which really brings to mind like there's a wonderful sort of almost an Archie quality to Death of Necromancer.
We all said this earlier. Just all agreed, didn't we? Especially around Jughead's hat.
Yeah, and there's especially like that when Archie sort of came back and you had like the supernatural elements which gave the Archie comics another life. There were certain moments of that, especially with the colours as well. The whole thing's lovely.
Can you remember where Archie used to work on a Saturday? He worked in a department store. Can you remember the name of it?
Oh God, is it? This is a funny name, isn't it?
He worked in Bumley's.
That was it, Bumley's. Fucking great.
Do you remember I said to your panel, I'm off to Bumley's.
I'm off to Bumley's. Lovely. What a work experience job that is.
But after we did And It Snowed, Rob said he wanted to do something kind of
with Bumley's. No.
Something we could connect to bums in 2 steps or less. Yeah, that's what he said. But he wanted to do something in the sort of Tim Burton spooky area. The sort of fun goth type stuff. So that was the conversation we had after we finished And It Snowed, and that sort of snowballed into this.
I mean, I think it speaks volumes that when you have creators returning to work together, that speaks volumes, doesn't it? I think.
It's nice to work regularly with people. I think.
Definitely, yeah, especially on sort of different projects. But like you say, like he's hard at work with the next issue, and this is how many pages is this book going to be in total?
The first, it's 114 in the end. I think they're mostly 28-page chapters. So I've awarded myself a couple of extra pages for the final chapter, which I just sent through to Rob today.
Oh, cool. Where's Rob? Where does Rob live? Do you meet up regularly or?
No, I think he lives in Windsor at the moment, possibly. I think he's moved a few times. But we've never actually met. He doesn't really seem to do the convention scene much. We just DM a lot.
I see him on Twitter and stuff, chatting and stuff.
Yeah. So obviously this is going to be a decent sized and glorious looking book. So in terms of back to like stock, for want of a better word, getting into the real business terms of everything now. How is that? Is that any different for like a graphic novel than it would be another issue? Because the prices are very different, aren't they? Like pricing is very different.
Well, yeah, like again, I was talking to Comic Printing UK, and obviously they've given me a quote for printing, but we're not going to be printing till like October, November. So fingers crossed, paper prices remain.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's
stable.
true, isn't it? That's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Paper price and postage price exploding by October, November would make my life harder.
But do you think that maybe people should think of a buffer for that? But if they if they plan a buffer, then that pushes that price of a current Kickstarter up.
I mean, there's a buffer in there. I'm just hopefully we'll stay within it.
There's that strategy is as well. Like you put your say you needed £1,000 to make your Kickstarter viable for yourself, but then you put your goal at £50, and then you get your £50, and it's like in the first 6 hours you say 100% we've done it, and that 100% kind of gets people to think, oh well, it's made its money, it must be successful, popular. I'll put my money in because I'm going to get that comic because everyone else is. It's all 100%.
If you need 1,200 quid, you put your total at 1,000 or something. Even that.
It can be a gamble, like doing that, but obviously you can get some nice payoffs. But yeah, it's an interesting. Like one thing I would say is like when I did mine, I had it end in end of November, and I had to get it in the post for December. And doing it near the end of the year is risky because obviously the prices will go up. Everything changes over the new year. So if you, for whatever reason, there's a technical problem, whatever, and it drifts over to January, you can fuck yourself over very easily by or the budget will just get eaten up through kind of printing costs, shipping, just over that new year period. So kind of having one finishing at the end of the year can be a risky proposition, I would put forward.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point.
Yeah, I know, like, people don't seem to kickstart that much in the sort of holiday period between like December, January, maybe February. Like it seems to absolutely erupt Kickstarter-wise at the start of March.
I've also heard people say, well, it's quiet. Do I then become the only thing on Kickstarter of this type, you know? I've heard people, there are all these theories about taking a gamble at certain quiet times as well, isn't there, you know?
Well, also the past couple of years has been an absolute fucking rocky road for when should I do my Kickstarter, because when hasn't there been a month where something's fucking apocalyptic happening? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, but at any minute Keanu Reeves could turn up or a war could start.
Because we did our El Marvo issue 2 right at the start of the pandemic, as in where the fuck's this going? And we didn't know we was going to go into lockdown.
People didn't know if they'd have jobs or
that absolutely floundered because it was just such bad timing. But then we redid it, and we did it a couple of months later, and it was fine. But
I think once lockdown settled, I mean, only speaking from personally, I spent more on comics than I had before.
Fuck me, I was back in stuff, buying stuff online, but it was just that initial wobble. But the uncertainty is a real kind of killer because people are just like, well, I'm going to hang on to my money.
Yeah, I mean that's the main reason Death of a Necromancer ended up being so long, is because I had a bit of money saved from the pandemic. If there had been no pandemic, we'd probably be doing this one issue at a time, to be honest.
Yeah, I get you.
Okay.
I have seen that model on Kickstarter before. I backed a series called Bloom, which I really, really enjoyed, and I was almost like desperately waiting for the next Kickstarter to arrive. Yeah, because it's different. I think the problem with having a monthly comic is it's a monthly comic, isn't it? If you're running a monthly comic on Kickstarter, it's not a monthly comic, it's a twice yearly comic or something.
Yeah, that's why I feel like kind of the Kickstarter. Would you say the Kickstarter is better for a kind of a one and done kind of deal, or a kind of?
I feel it is, as opposed to
hope so.
Yeah, as opposed to an ongoing story, because you kind of forget about stuff, don't you?
To be fair, though, you got stuff like that Came in America, which is an ongoing story that just goes from strength to strength. Obviously there's going to be exceptions to every rule, but that fucking just seems to be picking up momentum as it goes. So
with comics as well, you have the law of diminishing returns, don't you? Your first issue is always the big seller. That's the one you've always got to print more of.
I mean, I think with Marvel and DC, you get like a 50% drop off for
after
issue 1.
I've got to do issue 2 of Fairy Fair at some point this year. I'm going to be interested to see how that goes.
Okay.
But with like past sort of experiences with an issue 2, how are you looking like to this future? I know it's hard to sort of look at it right now when you're in the trenches with Death of the Necromancer and the campaign's just finished. But at what point will you sort of sit down and go, right, let's look at the next campaign? Because some people they seem to have campaigns after campaigns after campaigns, like one after the other. I don't know how they do it. What's your sort of method of thinking for how you might handle this?
A lot of the time, it's just me and a calendar, really. I mean, like the idea, ideally, yes, would be to have this for like Thought Bubble. So if I want to have them both done for Thought Bubble, I probably need to start very fair in like late summer at the latest, something like that. And I'll once I decide that, I just kind of force myself through it.
Yeah. So Thought Bubble's quite a good. Like a lot.
That's when the old printers go nuts, don't they? Before that, there's always so much. Yeah,
and a lot of people. And I noticed, like on this one, you've got like, October, November.
That's a Thought Bubble deadline. Yeah, the hope is to get the books in time to post out all the Kickstarter rewards, because as Tony said, I would like to have them with the backers before I take a massive pile of them to Thought Bubble. In time to then take them to Thought Bubble.
Yeah, but I think you always want to deliver to the backers first, don't you? So just say the stock has come in just before Thought Bubble, right? You've got all your books, and you've surely, when it comes to your back, you put the backers' copies aside. Unless someone's going to pick it up on the day, you should never just take from the stock. Because if one backer doesn't get their book, or is still waiting for their book, and they find out that you've been selling normal stock, that comes back to bite, doesn't it? I don't
think there'd be any risk of me selling a copy that a backer later needed.
I guess.
Yeah.
Go on, Nick.
Yeah, like the point of like, if you're saying whether I would, not sell them at Thought Bubble if I didn't have time to send them to the backers first because they arrived, the day before or something.
Yeah. I think it's more like, don't sell the copies that are meant for backers.
We've seen that recently, haven't we? We've seen where someone can't afford the post, so they're actually selling the backer copies to pay for money to pay for the post for the reprint of. It's all.
Yeah, they've got to make their money back to make the postage on people who've already paid for it.
Becomes a circular nightmare, doesn't it?
Yeah, you kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul there. It's a funny one, but like you can always do like, say I saw that coming down the line and I was like, oh fuck, I might be in a bit of trouble here. I would be like, if you pick it up from Thought Bubble, you kind of refund your postage, or you get an extra special or something, or do you know what I mean? Try and spin it a bit so
you get people who do hand them out. They ask if you're going to be at a convention and they hand them over. And I kind of, sometimes I'm absolutely fine with that. I've got no problem with it, and sometimes I think that's a bit cheeky.
Well, I guess if it's like, this will cost me £4 to send it to you, but if you're being at Thought Bubble, I'll just give it to you, and that saves you £4.
There's been a tier with no postage for just collecting at Thought Bubble.
Then that's fine.
I wouldn't charge someone on fucking postage and then you come pick it up by hand. That's a bit cheeky.
Yeah, that's £4 in my pocket. There we
go. I'm not sure. Can you actually do that, like a no postage tier?
I think so.
It'd be set up the same as like a digital tier, I guess. Yeah.
Or one of those.
So you could possibly,
if you like me, give me £1. I hate those ones.
One thing I really don't like is the fact that when I did Viper last time, I couldn't get rid of that. It was
it was almost a set one, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like, just back this because you feel back it
because you believe in it or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's like, no, don't. Like this is years old advice, but it was Ryan K. Lindsay who said that first tier is the most important one, and don't put just give me money just because you like me. It should be like the comic front and center, and now that option to have that is taken away. Like someone's made that arbitrary decision that first one's just a begging tier.
It's like if you like me, buy me a coffee. Oh, fuck off.
Just
that's people talking to him in real life as well.
Yeah.
I saw one today that was on Twitter saying, I just need some money. It's like, what for?
Yeah.
Can you just say like, my leg's fallen off or something? Okay, fair enough.
Is your leg falling off, Dan?
No.
Oh, thank God, you owe me.
I mean, you see that people make the most of their fans, don't they? You see the people taking advantage. There's that famous creator who keeps having GoFundMe's because they can't pay the rent.
I mean, you're in serious trouble if you've got to do a GoFundMe every month to make your rent. You've got to make moves. Maybe
a lot of Patreons are basically just back this creator because you like their work. There's the vague idea of some sort of reward sometimes, but you're not always paying for something that specific.
Yeah, well, I think you're paying, for example, there's some that do podcasts. I think Gareth said it last week. If he's getting that content from people who make podcasts, and he doesn't mind sticking, a couple of dollars in a Patreon. But I think it's just like, can you already buy my overpriced comics? Can you pay my rent as well? You're like, okay.
Yeah, Patreon. Yeah, Patreon's definitely more of a. I don't want to say. Well, I'm going to say it.
Well, it's patronage. Is what it's based on.
Yeah.
You know, you're being paid to create stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The good thing also about the Kickstarter and the Indiegogo is the fact that you're able to get your comic out to an audience that you never would have the chance to interact with otherwise.
Yeah.
From being on that site, I had most of my sales were to people I'd never interacted with before.
That's the most important thing I think about it compared to just selling comics like we used to.
Yeah,
I think beyond like the raising the money, it's the getting your voice, getting your comic seen elsewhere.
Yeah,
I think it's
in the shop. It's a shop essentially, isn't it, on a shelf?
You're a creator, and you go on and say, right, here's my comic about the color red, and everyone's like, oh, that's a good comic, I'd go for that. And then you do a next comic, oh, this comic's about the color green or something. You know what I mean? This is a totally different comic, but they know you've got a proven track record of delivering that comic. They like what you put out, and so they're going to go for that again. And they know it's a one-off, a standalone, and then you can just keep punching these comics out. And
I mean, is that something you guys do when you go to back something from someone who isn't? Because I mean, to be fair, most of the people we back are people we know at the moment at this point, aren't they? But if you're backing something from someone you don't know, do you go and look at? Oh, you obviously look at what the comic's about and you read the comics, but do you go and look at their previous campaigns?
That will be a deciding factor.
I haven't so much before, but I may do more in the future. But then again, I'm not necessarily backing anonymously a lot of the times now. Yeah. I mean, Nick, how have you found it with, like, obviously because you've done a couple of Kickstarters, so there's a couple of people there's a few people that are probably return sort of customers, for want of a better term, who know that you will deliver. How has that filtered through to a bigger campaign like this? Have you seen those people come back once again?
Yeah, I think so. I think kind of pleasingly, it's been a larger number of sort of people I don't really know, or people I think have found me through Kickstarter. Because the very first one, the And It Snowed one, the percentage of people I know from my real life, my non-comics life, my outside the house life was a lot higher. There was a lot of more people who were backing it because they knew me and because I was doing this exciting new thing that I hadn't done before. And by the third Kickstarter, those people have kind of got into a bit of a sort of Nick's doing that again stage where they don't feel as obligated to back me. And thankfully, people I don't know from Kickstarter have turned up to replace them.
That's the triumph, is when you're selling to a comic to someone you don't know, isn't it? That's the real. I don't know if perhaps I mean it quite like this, but I kind of feel like that's a proper sale.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
When it's not your mum, you know. Yeah.
And also, the new reader is almost the most important reader, if you think about it like that, because you win them over with that book. We've all been victims to it. We've been won over by books, and now we follow creators because of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what this show's based on, mate. Really, the amount of things we've seen over the years. Yeah.
Going back to that thing about the seeing what they've done before or what their track record is, especially on Kickstarter. When I've read a synopsis for a comic and I was like, this seems quite wild. Like there doesn't seem to be a discipline in what they're promising and promoting here. Do you know what I mean? Like, they start saying, "Oh, this comic's gonna be the best fucking thing since sliced bread." Alan Moore shitting himself about this. Then you think, but this seems a bit fucking much. So you check their record and it's like 0 backed, and this is the first one they've made. And it's like, not sure about that.
Yeah, I'm also very shy of following anyone that has the name of their project of their Kickstarter in the title of their Twitter page.
Well,
Necromancer, the Twitter account.
Yeah.
Although, do you mean in their nickname, or do you mean
no? I
mean
they've
actually called @Necrobook or something?
Yeah, I mean they've created a Twitter account just for their Kickstarter. Yeah, we get that. We get a lot of follows from those accounts, Nick. If you see what I mean. And it's just straight promotion. I'm not interested.
Yeah. I never did that because I was always a bit unclear who would actually follow that. Surely using my account, which has people who already know me, is going to be where most of the interest is. I mean,
everything would be repeated on your account anyway, I'm guessing.
I mean, you can rebrand your account so easily on Twitter or most social media accounts. You just kind of change the picture and something and the description, and away you go. It's not really too much for a problem.
I think sometimes you've got to be careful with that, though, haven't you? Like, for instance, just say you've got your standard profile picture. The importance of just having one profile picture. And a lot of it, everyone's got a short attention span, haven't they? So they're just scrolling through. If you change your profile picture for this campaign, just say it's the cover of the book for that campaign, people might not think it's you if they're not reading.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They'll just scroll past it.
I have seen, perhaps more in my day job than this world, I've seen a lot of people who scrub their Twitter timelines, change the name of their account and the profile just to promote a new product. So they retain the amount of followers. And you, if an outsider would look at this, well, why has this account got 6,000 followers? It's not done any tweets. And it's, support read the comic, and it's because they've scrubbed their timeline. They don't
hold on, guys. This is the second time we've mentioned that comic about the color red. Are we brainstorming now?
Yeah, this is a new one. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's after that movie that's about something. Isn't that called a Red thing or something?
Yeah, that was the Bruce Willis one, but it was
I know the one you mean. I was thinking of what's that animated one that's about a lady's time of the month?
Oh God, why is that your go-to?
No, it's a kids' cartoon. Isn't it? It's teaching them about that sort of thing.
Turning Red. Yeah,
Turning Red.
Red.
That's it. Yeah.
Good films, to be fair. Good films.
Yeah.
Nick, what's happened to you? You've changed since you come on the show.
That's why I turn my camera off, guys.
So, I mean, we will say, like, the importance of a Kickstarter page as well. Like, if you go on the Death of the Necromancer Kickstarter page, you can buy Chapter 1 now, of course.
Please do.
But there's an abundance of stuff. Like, if you scroll down, there's pages, there's sketches, there's you just lay it all out, don't you, for the people, as much information as possible for people who are potentially going to back this book.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to make it as clear as possible. We've got a fair chunk of this done, and also I had to explain this whole PDF subscription thing I'm doing, which some people might not be immediately familiar with or immediately jump to. To be fair, I have had at least one person say they found it quite confusing, so maybe I should have also made a diagram or something. I'm not sure, but
now
sometimes
you say that. It says
I'm not being glib. I genuinely mean I should have made a diagram.
Well, is that something? Do you guys watch the videos? I occasionally do. I don't always. But that's something
I watch Nick's videos because they make me laugh.
Yeah, my partner makes my Kickstarter videos. It's mostly us dicking around at our house. It's good. It's good low budget fun.
I watched Kev Cooling's video today just so I can take the piss out of him about it. That's why I watched it.
Oh, I haven't watched that one yet.
Yeah, he's very serious. It's not like him at all.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, the importance of a video it is important, isn't it, Nick? Like, it can. Has anyone talked to you about the videos? Because they make me laugh. Your ones.
People seem to like them. I'm always quite keen that if I'm going to bother doing a video, it should at least be fun or interesting in some way. Because I've seen a lot of comics projects get funded with, like, either no video at all or just a sort of basic motion comic trailer with a couple of panels and some text.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to, actually take the time to film myself and inflict that visual on the world, then I should,
inflict that visual.
Yeah. We don't do a video. We don't do videos on ours because it would just cause us to take the piss out of each other for the rest of our lives. There's quite a lot of animosity at Tribute HQ.
It'd be too sexual. Everyone would be too.
Plus, we couldn't show any panels from inside the comic.
No, lest you forget, we've done one for Thought Bubble. We've done a couple of ACP ones.
I think we should do more with your video from one side of the convention to the other. We are quite fond of.
Yeah.
God, couldn't do that at Thought Bubble because Dan would walk off and they'd be gone for 15 minutes.
Yeah. And he couldn't do that one hand in the pocket walk, which we love.
Yeah.
The strut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when did you start, like, properly jump into the deep end of, like, making comics, Nick? Which year?
I think it was it was, like I said before, I think it was 2017 when I was doing the short stories. I really took to heart the sort of advice everyone always gives about starting short. So I did these, like, 6 short stories of, like, between 3 and 5 pages, I think.
Wow.
And I got there as artists, one of whom was Rob Ahmed and a few others as well, to do those. And then, once I'd done a few of those, then I sort of went to black and white comics, which was Little Deaths and a couple of others. And then at this point, about 5 years later, I finally reached full colour.
I get the impression you're quite an old school comics fan. I know we chat a bit about comics we're reading. I know we're chatting about you reading Spider-Man the other day, and have you always been a comic fan? This is just something that's come from your fan of reading the stuff, is it? Or?
Pretty much. I mean, with a level of old school. Like I started reading in the sort of mid to slightly later 90s. Like literally the first few comics I bought were the Spider-Man Clone Saga. As
class.
People like themselves, the extent to which I bang on about it. Yeah. I think in the very first issue I bought, it was the main character was Peter Parker, but he was wearing Ben Reilly's Scarlet Spider costume because he had to convince everyone, but he wasn't in prison or something. It was somehow I kept reading. Yeah, but it was pretty baffling.
And you still read now? You got a pull list at a local shop, Nick, and stuff?
Not a pull list. I've gone kind of pretty full digital, mostly sort of a combination of money and space in my house issue.
Yeah.
So you're a Marvel Unlimited, aren't you? Is that right?
Yeah, I get a lot of use out of Marvel Unlimited.
Is that worth it?
Yeah.
If you're willing to, if you want to read a lot of Marvel comics on a tablet, then absolutely. It's about what, a comic at a price of about 1.5 comics, something like that.
I'm gonna say,
yeah, some of those individual issues are pretty pricey, so it's probably cheaper than that, I guess, isn't it? What's that? What is it?
I can't remember what it is now. But I'm more than make my money. I've used it today. I've read 4 or 5 comics on it today. So just today, I've made the money out of it. But, you know.
Yeah, but I read a lot of I follow the entire X-Men line on it, so that's about 10 comics a month just on that, and then I read a few other random bits. Like I've read a bunch of Moon Knights before that came on and so on. So yeah, it's definitely worth it if you're reading a decent few Marvel comics. Yeah,
I'm not a lover of the new version though, Nick. It's sort of the new act sort of undercomplicated itself. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I find it a bit harder to get to the actual comics. Yeah, like I know that massive ridiculous list it used to have was ludicrous, the listing like every Marvel comic ever alphabetically, but it did in some ways make things easier, and they've kind of removed that almost entirely.
Yeah, it doesn't. They used to be out this week, out last week. You know, the bit of that going on.
Yeah.
And it's been a bit sort of simplified.
So how often is it updated?
Oh, weekly.
Once a week. Yeah, the comics come up.
What the new issues hit it straight away?
No, they're 2 or 3 months behind for the ones that are coming out as physical copies, but they also have digital copies on there of the new digital series. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the new issues that are in comic shops, or they're like a 3-month delay. So yeah, we're just getting the stuff from late January coming up now.
Yeah, which with my pile of unread comics, sometimes, you know, I get to them on digital before I pull them out the bottom of the pile to read. You know, so it's I need to do more with it, I think.
Yeah. I'm just on the website now, and obviously it's just giving me US prices. $9.99 a month.
That's not bad. What's that?
Yeah, it's not
$7.99, $8.99.
Annual is $69 a year.
It's good.
Which works out at $5.75. And what's Annual Plus? The new exclusive kit. Annual Plus is $99 a year.
I haven't gone near that.
What is
I don't know what that is.
What is
I think that's the same, except they send you some merch or something.
Oh, yes. The exclusive.
We might not have that over here then.
Yeah. With the purchase of Marvel Unlimited, members get exclusive limited edition membership kit. So you get.
It's like Foom.
Here's what you get.
And a badge.
You get Spider-Gwen by Scotty Young pin.
Huh?
You get 2 variant comics: X-Men #1, Marvel Stormbreaker, Peach Momoko variant, Sinister War #1, Mark Aspinall variant. You get a sword patch.
That's quite cool.
And you get a limited edition Hasbro Marvel Legends Captain Kate Kitty Pryde figure, not available anywhere else. So you get a Kitty Pryde figure with a little Lockheed, but it's not available anywhere else.
Yeah. Yep. The other thing is worth mentioning is I think by the end of this week, I think it's the end Friday of this week, DC have got a version that's usable in the UK. So DC, kind of DC Unlimited is starting in the UK. It hasn't previously been over here, but they're sort of pushing it out worldwide.
Yeah, I need to check if that's going to work on my elderly iPad, but if it will, I'll probably sign up for that.
Yeah, me too, man. Yeah.
Oh, there's an additional benefit to this.
Go on.
The membership kit. You get invites and access to Marvel events and 10% off Marvel merchandise and more at shopdisney.com. There you go.
Right.
we probably we will just read the.
I don't think that's available to us here though, dude.
No,
I think we get the basic package. I think.
Yeah.
I've always been very sort of just give me the comics on this, which I think is like, especially with planning Kickstarters and stuff. So I think this is something you've talked about in the last few weeks. I've never been that interested in a lot of the accompanying merch type stuff. I mean, I like to the extent that I think other people, like some of the people buying the stuff, are probably more into it than I am. So I sort of try and provide a little bit of that. But
I'm not fussed about bookmarks, man. You know, it's like they fall out of the. I don't know whether I keep them or not.
I don't.
Yeah.
I
Most of
keep,
the other
I
stuff
keep
I
them,
can't-
and then I find a bag of them, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
what am I
yeah,
gonna...
all bookmarks.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't find like I've done prints in the past. I've got prints off people, but I don't really do much for them. I know I've kind of didn't anger the fan base, but people are like, what? But I started mounting up some of the nicer prints and stuff. But there's a lot of stuff like badges and bookmarks, like UTM. So, oh, okay, fair enough.
If there's an original art tier, I will have a look at it to see what the price of the original art is. That's the only one I'll do.
That's a good way to kind of bolster your total. Your
William Hazel does that, and I've had some nice sketches from him. Some of his stuff.
Yeah, we do that with Robert on the campaigns we've done together because he works traditionally.
Okay, that's an interesting thing to do on pre-order. I've just pre-ordered the new Johnny Ryan book actually through Mansion Press, and there's a quite reasonable original art tier on the pre-order.
Oh, nice one.
They tier the pre-orders as well, which is quite cool.
Do you remember Knights versus Pirates? They did theirs where you paid a set sum for like a page or a double page spread.
Oh yeah,
and you could pick your page, and they would update the graphic as they went.
Yeah,
I mean that's a great way, like of making some money and also giving the fans what they want.
Yeah, I always look at who the artist is because I think it's either that I really like their art or they're a bankable future commodity to be able to sell in 10 years. And I think the Imber is bankable, isn't it?
Yes,
I've got a couple
definitely.
of original pieces already by Chris, and I always think, that's going to be worth a few quid in a few years, I reckon.
I would always suggest when running the campaign, make a tier for the fucking Uber super fan that's really high, and you might only do one or two of them.
Are you doing the to come around Dan's house and live with him for a week tier at all? Or?
Oh, if it makes some money, yeah. I mean, I'll probably have to fucking pay you to do that.
Ladies,
do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like, kind of, give like a big goal, like that no one might back, but then you might have someone who fucking absolutely loves everything you do, and this is a great way of showing that and backing it. Do you know what I mean?
Didn't Monty Nero have one which was come and spend the weekend with me or something, and I'll take you around all my different haunts and things? I think someone did take him up.
Okay.
On it. Yeah,
I was thinking
know Joel
more
Meadows had one which was come round my house. I'll come round your house and talk to you about comics.
Were you going to have one about graves, Nick? Is that what you're going to tell us?
I've read years ago on some bit of Kickstarter guidance that the amount that the average person who's sort of not a mega fan, but knows who you are and is somewhat well disposed towards you, is what is going to want to give you is probably about £20. So no matter what you have to do, what random rewards you have to make up, have a tier that costs about £20, and you'll find that a lot of people will take you up on that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So I have done that on all my campaigns. So you'll note that it was quite easy for Necromancer because that's just how much the book costs. So with the single issues, I had to make some stuff up to get out to that. But yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, go for the price ranges. If you just like do everything's low, you're only going to make low money. But if you do like a range from low, mid to high, you got a chance of kind of getting different punters in, and some that would want to spend a bit more, some that won't spend a bit more.
Do you back many? Do you, Nick, as well? Do you back many projects?
Yeah, quite a lot. I think I got my super backer badge on Kickstarter, which is
nice.
a point of pride. I think I what am I on?
How many have you got back for that?
I mean, I'm on 271, and that was a while ago. So I think it might be somewhere in the early 200s.
I think they give it to you for backing numbers during a certain period, don't they? As well, I think. So it's so many in a year. I think you get one as well.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It's mostly digital tiers, if that helps. As I say, I'm quite heavily shifted towards digital comics at this point.
I've checked mine. It's 109.
Oh my god!
191. There you go.
Oh, I got 197.
Ah.
I just looked now. I was unaware of such a thing, and now I'm just thinking of all those pounds I've spent.
Have you got yours?
There we go. He'll be depressed all the rest of the
Oh
week
my god! What have I been doing with my life?
I wasted my life.
I've scrolled down a couple.
At the same time, I'm thinking, Nick's ahead of me. I need to catch up.
Yeah, exactly.
I was scrolling down to the ones that didn't make it, and like, fuck me, some of these look really good. I'm kind of annoyed they didn't go through.
What ones you've backed that didn't make it?
One's a bat that didn't make their total. There's one called Chronicles of Villains, which looks absolutely fucking great. And Sovereign, I think I talked about it on this show years ago. God, when was that? I pledged. It was one of those ones. It's in the States, but it was the postage was absolutely ridiculous. I think that it was asking for £34,000 and
Bloody hell.
only made 8. So it kind of it didn't work out, sadly. But there we go.
Well, I actually received another Kickstarter this week. My board game of the thing.
Oh yeah, I saw you got that. Yeah, I saw a few people got that.
I mean, that was one of those ones that took a couple of years, obviously with the pandemic and stuff.
Oh, did it? Oh, that's good.
But when it arrived, it is fucking beautiful. So you know, all good things.
Loads
sometimes.
of extras with that one as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, loads of extras. So yeah, all good things. Remember, if people have backed your project, give them value for money.
Yeah, I got the Inktober graphic novel that Elsa Chartier did last year. My copy of that from Kickstarter. A rare physical object, because her books are always really, really nice. Actually arrived this week. It's looking nice. Lots of random prints and stuff with it. Some stickers that I've actually stuck on my laptop.
Oh, he's one of those trendy like hackers that you get in like the 90s movies that their laptops are covered in like stickers.
I'm just one of those annoying people who sits in the corner of coffee shops typing on his comic scripts.
Yeah. Get some peace away from home.
Yeah.
It's just the only way to make me sit down and work. If I can't walk up and pace around the room without being judged, I might actually stop doing it.
Oh dear! But you've got plenty of projects so on the pipeline. So this Death of Necromancer is all written. Is that correct? And like it's on track.
Yeah, so far, yeah. Rob's drawn 3 out of 4 chapters, and I sent him the 4th script today, actually, about 5 hours ago.
Nice.
So that was.
And as we speak, the project has not long since been funded. So 3 issues out of 4.
Yeah, and David Cooper's colouring issue 2 now, I think. I sent it to him basically as soon as we funded, so he should be on track to start with that now. And then, yeah.
Amazing. And then very fair issue 2 later this year. Can we look forward to?
That's the hope, yeah. The hope is to, again, do a campaign about the same time as the last one. So, like summer, like I said, in the hope of finishing it for Thought Bubble.
Yeah. Is that like balancing the work that you've got with Death of a Necromancer? You will have that in a good rhythm so you can concentrate on a separate campaign like Very Fair.
I'm hoping it'll be more or less running by itself. I mean, the biggest part, to be honest, in the last few weeks has been trying to make myself finalise the script for issue 4 because endings are difficult, it turns out, and especially with a story that fiddly. So I was rewriting that a lot over the last couple of weeks. But now that that's finalised, I'm hoping it'll be just a bit of straightforward admin for the rest of it.
You've just given me the idea for a future topic for a show. We need to talk about endings of books. Happy endings. No.
Yes.
A good ending.
A good ending for a book. Yeah, because that is important, isn't it? Yeah.
Don't end like Games of Thrones.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I'm mostly quite happy I could write the ending while the rest of it was still, in progress, so I could, go back and change it a bit to help myself if I need to.
Nice. So, obviously, where can people go to find out more about Death of a Necromancer and your awesome work, Nick?
If you go to nickbryan.com, there's a few free comics up there, including the short stories I was talking about earlier and some one-pagers I've done, plus links to all the...
You got stock photo comics as well.
Oh, God, those are amazing, aren't they?
Stock
You've
photo
got a Fumetti on there, have you?
Yeah, there's a terrible free stock photo site as part of my teaching myself to do comics program, as well as the short stories. I did a bunch of stock photo comics, and then I ran out of photos on the website and I stopped. But yeah, so as you said, the first chapter of Necromancer is now on sale on my shop on buysmallpress.com, so it's not too late to jump on that. The rest will go up, as I say, probably a week or 2 after I send them to backers.
Nice. See, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
We talk to people who know what they're doing.
We need to.
Ask me again a month or so before Thought Bubble how it's going.
Okay,
Coming from us who don't know what we're doing.
No,
you're an adrenaline junkie now, you see, Nick. You're going to run a Kickstarter again just before Kickstarter, just before a Thought Bubble, just to get the nerves up,
Yeah, I'm going to double the target for the second issue of Thursday just to see what happens, just to see how it feels.
Just to watch your blood pressure go up.
Just to feel something, to be honest.
Just to feel something. amazing. But certainly we've got the rest of the show to do, so all you lovely listeners are all going to feel so. No, that sounds bad.
Yes, they are.
That sounds bad. You're going to feel joy because we're going to talk about even more comics. But before then, do we have any shout-outs? I know we've got a couple of shout-outs, and our guest does. So who would like to go first?
Yes, first.
Yeah, guest.
Yeah.
You got a shout-out, haven't you, Nick?
I've got a couple, actually. The first one I was going to do is the complete Terry Moore Humble Bundle. Finishes in a few days. I think it's been running for the best part of a month now. This is like all his work in like PDF form, from Strangers in Paradise to I think his most recent series, for about 23 quid, which is a pretty decent deal. I've actually got a lot of this on Comixology, but considering Comixology seems to be having some strange times, I thought it'd be nice to have the PDF.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah. And there's quite a lot of other stuff I don't have there too. So yeah.
He's great, isn't he, Terry Moore? So good. Yeah.
So,
he's an amazing cartoonist. Yeah.
So, like, we were briefly talking about this before we actually sort of started the show. We've briefly sort of mentioned sort of humble bundles and stuff, but they're a massive like avenue of value, aren't they?
Well, yeah, especially since I started reading primarily in digital. Yeah, it's a great way to try out things in huge numbers. Like I started reading that Transformers comic, More Than Meets the Eye, pretty much entirely because there was a humble bundle on and a few people were recommending it, and it's great. That was an amazing book.
I always think it'd be great if they had an app, because everything kind of goes into my Dropbox, and I have to remember where I've stored it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if they had a sort of a reading app, would be really good, I think, because I would definitely buy a lot more on there, I think.
Well, there's the awesome one at the moment, Image Comics from the 90s.
Oh, that's well worth it, isn't it?
Got Spawn Origins,
like
1 to 20
issues,
volumes. Yeah. You've got 20 volumes of that Spawn one, so that's fucking loads. The Battle Chasers Anthology, 102 issues of Savage Dragon.
That's well worth it.
Volume 1 of Cyberforce, Volume 1 of Shadowhawk. You got the original Savage Dragon trade, 61 issues of Witchblade and 41 issues of The Darkness.
Now,
Fuck
me.
look, now, just going on humblebundle.com, in the search is a bit. Don't go to the search, people. I put Terry Moore and it didn't come up. You got to go to the books.
Yeah, I just go to bundles and then books, and that's probably
bundles and books, and like the Image Comics one. As it's got pay what you want. They have several tiers, don't they? Because they just add more depending on what you. So I think that this is just the basic one, which is 21 comics, worth about $770, and the Terry Moore one, 45 books, worth about $717. Yeah.
How much is that?
About £23, the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And Terry Moore, I love Terry Moore's, but I need to read more of his work.
Strangers in Paradise, I was a big fan of that series.
Yeah, I love my Rachel Rising book as well. That's a great.
That's true.
Oh, that was a great series. Yeah,
that was a great series. Yeah, and he's a bit of an indie legend, is Terry Moore. If you haven't read any of his work, anyone who's listening to this show,
I had a chat with him at New York. Super nice dude as well, and he was at Lucca when I went there, the Italian festival. Lovely to have a coffee with him. Yeah,
he just keeps making comics and making the sort of stories he wants to make, which is always fascinating. Fascinating to see. So there's 3 days, well, probably 2 days as we're speaking now, left on this if you're listening to us on the Monday. And there's 18 days left on the Image one. But they add stuff like this all the time, don't they?
There's loads. I mean, there's like you say, that you can get programs on there, Photoshop filters, brushes. There's a lot of stuff on there.
Yeah,
it's worth checking your spam folder for Humble Bundle emails, because I delete so many that it's just stuff I don't understand what they are. Then the comic ones I miss occasionally. Yeah.
So keep an eye out for that. Did you have another one, Nick?
This is possibly a smidge self-serving, but there's an anthology coming up on Kickstarter, the Fletcher Cross anthology, which actually had a Kickstarter last year which didn't fund, but they're back taking another run at it, and I thought I'd give them a shout because I've got a story in it, and there's a lot of other good people who have, including people I've worked with before, like Gabby Scanlon and Sonia Kinsey.
Nice.
Oh, I remember this project. Yeah, we mentioned this before. Gabby mentioned it to us. Yeah.
So is this live now, or is it going to be live soon?
I believe they've just put the pre-launch click here to get a notification page up. So I think
I backed this before. Oh, I wonder if I'll get a notification from that. Yeah, hopefully.
Nice.
And that's just got up. That's I think it's a sort of lots of stories about the same character thing. We're following this character Fletcher Cross in his adventure across the multiverse, and I wrote him as a sort of sloppy, irritating little snot version of Doctor Who, which I found very entertaining.
Isn't that just Doctor Who?
Of course.
Yeah. Oh my. Nice. So we'll put that one in the show notes. What other shout outs do we have, gents?
I've just got the one, and it relates to Kev Cooling. Tom Long's post. As you listen to this, there'll be 5 more days to go. It's the dark tale of a deadly highwayman. Original black and white comic portraying the dark legend of Tom Long, a notorious highwayman in the Cotswolds in the 1800s. And go and back it, and also watch the video and write to Kevin, tell him how dishy he looks in it.
I've yet to back this, so I've got to get on it.
It needs it needs a tiny bit to push it over the number, but it's still got a week, just under a week to go. So yeah, well worth it. I've read it and it's good. I really think.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Nice. Dan, do you have any shout outs?
No, got nothing to talk about.
Me neither. We're useless. But
pretty much.
But we all have something to recommend in our lovely recommend section. Now, Nick, you know the guest goes first, so what would you like to recommend to our lovely listeners to check out?
One of the big things I've been reading in the last year is the webcomics by John Allison, who wrote Giant Days and has also been writing and drawing his own stuff online and in print for like decades at this point. He was doing his webcomic Scary Go Round in the 2000s. But I was a bit of a late comer to this. I came onto his stuff with Giant Days, like I think a lot of people did.
Yeah.
And in a sort of typical late coming convert way, then became a massive fan and went back and read like everything I could find of his. And he's now putting up his new stuff online mostly. He's had this comic Steeple, which was a miniseries with Dark Horse, which he did one volume with them as single issues, and now I think he's doing it as webcomics on his website, and then Dark Horse is just collecting them as trades. But yeah, that's on. I think all of the stuff after volume 1 is online at steeple.church, and it's really good. It's about a sort of Satanist churches in rural Cornwall, which
amazing.
All of Cornwall.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at Death of a Necromancer, I suppose maybe you can see why I like this, but still, it's really good. John Allison is amazing. His sort of lightness, charm, and character of it is just flawless.
Yeah, I think that also it speaks volumes to a creator who builds up some work and then a sort of a working relationship with an ongoing publisher, especially someone like Dark Horse, that he can have the freedom to do the webcomic and then they'll collect it and then print the collected editions, because there's a lot to be said for I mean, we talk about webcomics a lot on this show, but there's a lot of people who want to double dip and have a physical copy of a webcomic, aren't there? There's loads of them.
Yeah, we thought when we started this show, no one will ever buy that. They can read it online, but loads of people do, don't they?
Yeah. I think that not enough is said that webcomic fans. I know there's obviously a lot of people who just read it for free and then they don't go back, but there's a big contingent.
It's what's made Dan a millionaire.
Yeah. But there are other people that want the copies of the books. I mean, I know if I look at my bookshelf now, there's a lot of them that were webcomics. Now they're glorious hardcovers. So,
in some ways, like the webcomic is just the kind of an ongoing promotional tool for your comic.
Really, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I know you put extra stuff in your collections, don't you, Dan? But
it
definitely is that, I think. Yeah.
It's the same way of doing a Kickstarter is like, just a lot of it is just a big promotional thing to go, look, I'm here. And, having the webcomic going up regularly does, the same thing, only.
Yeah.
Well,
that's kind of like running a Patreon is like, if you got a webcomic and people are paying you kind of $1 or whatever it is, just to kind of like for you to put pages up online, essentially for free. I guess that's one of the great things about Patreon.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, I think, when you run a crowdfunding campaign for a popular webcomic, there's two sides to the coin, isn't there, really? Because you're sort of running it for people who have become fans of the loyal people who read the web, the numbers that you get daily, weekly, or however often you do your webcomics. So they want a print copy, but then you're trying to get the new readers, because not everyone that is part of your weekly numbers are going to come and want the printed book. So there is still the element of, it's not a done deal, is it? Just because you got a popular webcomic, it's not a done deal that your Kickstarter is going to absolutely
not at all. Yeah.
So something to bear in mind, I think. But never do the old fucking counting the chickens when it comes to anything like that.
And it comes to comics. Yeah.
I definitely heard of that concept for Steeples, and I thought that was great a while ago, and I thought it was a great concept. So that's available to read as a webcomic now, is it?
Yes, so I think possibly the first volume is only available via Dark Horse, so that you might have to get that on Comixology.
Interesting. Well,
But
I'm not
yeah,
going to Comixology. If they print it, I'll buy it.
I think there's a Dark Horse edition of the first one still. Yeah, he also did a Giant Days Batman crossover on his website for like
on his website.
20
I was about to
pages.
go, what the hell?
I believe it is, classic outlaw comics, not endorsed by DC, but yeah,
Lovely.
There's 20 pages of Giant Days Batman up there as well, which is spectacular. They team up to investigate a snooker-based crime.
Nice.
I don't know you guys. I'm still like the Comixology thing's totally done me on that. I don't even fucking look at it anymore. I just don't.
I bought something today on there, and it was a pain in my arse.
My last experience, which I actually posted about online while I was in a laundrette. That's the moment.
Rock and roll.
That's the moment you can get schlubs like me, because I'm sat there and I'm in waiting rooms and things like that. It's like, oh, I'll browse Comixology, and I was browsing it, and because it's all in alphabetical order and stuff, sometimes I thought, oh, this comic looks interesting. Click on it, find out more, and I went back, and it took me all the way to the top of the list again. I know it's a first world problem, but I didn't want to scroll all the way down every time. So after like 2 or 3 books I checked out, I thought, I'm out. I can't do this every time. So sorry if you released a comic that was after the letter R this week, because I didn't see it was there.
You're going to restart this trade arms tour where everything's like AAA.
Yeah, Aardvark Vanaheim. And all that sort of thing. Yeah.
Plus, you also like, when there's just like a bumper release of stuff, like they had like 50 issues of like Dazzler comics from the 70s that were added. So as good as they are, I was still like, this isn't
not good.
This isn't what I want to.
People biting their hands off for that. Not me.
Yeah.
That seems the ideal thing to be a Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why I've got Marvel
Actually,
Unlimited.
you two might have finally convinced me to take a punt on that. Actually,
give that a shot.
Yeah, give that.
There's loads of stuff, and I've just read a load of Cap issues on there or something. And,
I don't know. I can fucking keep up with all the comics, man. There's only so many else in the day.
I know. It's terrible. And we do a bloody podcast about them.
So fucking browses the phone looking at shit for hours on end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all the porn you watch. You could be reading comics. Yeah.
Oh dear. So that did you say you had? So there was that one. Did you have another one, Nick? Did you say? I can't remember. Or was that it?
No, that was it.
Yeah. What more? Yeah, what more?
Steeple and Giant Days Batman.
I need to see
Such
this.
a hipster.
I need to see this Giant Days Batman. Anyway, who would like to go next?
Well, I've got 2, but they're both part of the same theme, and I think it might cause just a tiny bit of discussion while I talk about them. Shall I do mine first?
Yeah, go on.
Is that all right? So I've got. I did a bit of a go and buy a load of small press books at Gosh again this week, and I bought 2. They're exactly the same size. I showed you before we came on, didn't I? They're A5 auto-bio self-published books. So the first one is called Wednesday by Tim Bird. We all know Tim. £4 in Gosh, good price. In fact, they were both very good prices. I would describe it as full colour inside, but it's not. It's one of those. Have you seen the work of Tim Bird, Nick, at all? He did Grey Area. He did The Great North.
I think I've actually read it.
Okay, yeah, cool. He does that sort of quite minimalistic style, and often it'll have just flat colour, use of maybe a couple of colours on a page, and it's throughout it. It's like that. But he also used photographs in it. So what it is, it's a story of him. It's basically the story of him and his dad going to football, and they were both Sheffield. I've got to get this right. Sheffield Wednesday, yeah, because there's 2, isn't there? Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United. So Sheffield Wednesday fans. In fact, one of the first pictures is a photograph of a ticket from a game in 1990 that I'm guessing he and his dad went to. He's clearly a proper fan. He plays a little bit. He talks a lot about the games, but he also plays a lot with the concepts of childhood memories and stuff like that in it. He names significant players. He quotes team lineups. He talks about big games. So he clearly knows his stuff around that team, but he also intertwines with it the family life and his, the change from being a child through to being an adult, and concentrates on the relationship with his father. The art is good. Tim's style doesn't lend itself to sort of noodling or overly complicated stuff. It's very flat, iconic images. He uses a lot of white space around images sometimes and lets the page breathe. and then occasionally he opens up to give a full image of something. There's quite a nice moment where he goes to his first football match in a memory that he kind of in a time of memory mismemory. He doesn't quite get it right. He says, "My dad says it wasn't this time, but I said it was this time," you know. And he walks up the steps and he sees the whole of a football stadium in front of him, and he uses quite a nice green of the pitch. It comes off quite nicely off the page, and I enjoyed it. And it's a nice personal story. I came away from it feeling that I've seen all this before, though, from him. I'm a fan of Tim's work, and I like generally what he does, but it came off as a little hollow to me. It's a little bit, I'm going to say it's a little bit like reading an indie autobio from 10 years ago. It doesn't show, I know Tim's not one of those creators who's particularly edgy or underground or, you know, but there wasn't enough of, I don't want to say it's boring because it's not. It just, if you're doing an autobio comic, I want to feel the heart and soul of yourself in it somewhere. And I think I set quite a high standard for Tim, because I think a lot of his work, and I've got a print of his downstairs in my living room. I think it was there when you came over, Vince. Yeah. I know it's that one of the motorway, you know, the sort of flat print. It's lovely. And I really like his work. But I think after reading The Great North Woods, I expected something more from him, which was a really good comic. Did we all read that? I think at least a couple of us read it, didn't we?
Yeah, Great North Woods, yeah.
And I don't know, I just expected a bit more. I think he needs to rip his training wheels off a little bit and just put himself out.
Go for it.
And I think I like to see that in autobio comics. I mean, it's a solid book, and I think it would do well if he was to go and sell this next to the bloke selling programs at Sheffield Wednesday. I think he'd sell a bundle of them. Do you know what I mean? It's that nice format. It's nice. Now, go on. Who's someone?
I was just gonna say, like the art of autobio is a funny thing, isn't it? Because creating them, how much do you let people in? If you're gonna be, you know, because it's a very personal thing naturally. So and what if you're a creator who has done a couple of autobio comics where you really let the readers in for your two of your books? You know, they could be quite raw, they could be quite personal, they could be however. When you come to the next one, and you just don't feel you want to do it, you know, you don't want to go that far. Does that affect that book?
That's the point I was going to make, and that's really valid, I think. And I think if you're going to talk about yourself in a comic or in a novel or in a song, for example, I want that level of absolute honesty from you. And you read it in novels, don't you? You read it in non-fiction autobiographies all the time. If it's just a list of things that are happening and there's no real emotional depth to it, it's not as good.
That always seems like the challenge of doing like an ongoing autobio comic, because like, I don't know, the average person's life doesn't have that many like satisfying stories or narratives in it a lot of the time, you know. I mean, if I really worked for hours, I could maybe produce one vaguely interesting autobio about the few noteworthy things that have happened in my life, but I don't know what I'd then do for the second one.
No, you're right, and it has to be interesting. I think you're right, Nick. You know, there's no point in us writing, you know, an autobio comic of what I did during lockdown, because I watched a lot of television and did a lot of work, you know, and I walked the dog. It's not as interesting as somebody, you know, if they write an autobiographic comic about their travels in South America or something, you know. Well, Follow Me In, for example, is a good example of that, isn't it? There's real events happen in that book.
Yeah.
There's real things happen.
And also, her next book wasn't autobiographical, you know. She's not rushing back to mine that thing.
And I want to compare that. Now, I think this will start, as you've all sort of keyed into, this will start a conversation around it. So the next one I want to talk about is a book called Life's a Party by Sean Azzopardi. It's subtitled One for the Road. It's A5 again. This one's full colour. Again, £4 out of gosh. And this one is detailed into 6 comics. It's been, I don't know if you remember, it's been a while since I've reviewed a book of Sean's. I think almost in the first year of the podcast, I talked about some stuff he's done, but I think he's been quite open, and I think you can find out on his social media and stuff that he's moved to Hull. So he used to live in Crouch End. In fact, he used to put on the Crouch End Comic Convention or whatever it was, you know, the little gathering in the town hall in Crouch End. It was a really cool little event. You know, Avery Hill were there and all these sort of guys. And now he's moved up to Hull, spelt for Americans, Hull, not Hell, which I'm sure always gets painted over on the street sign as you get there. But he now is a buddy of Gareth Slightholme's, obviously, also a buddy of ours. And this is the comic that talks about his move there. And what he does, he talks about the moments in his life that are both good and bad. We see moments of his use of drugs as a kid, his loss of hair. There's this sort of funny image of this is a picture of me before and this is a picture of me now. And a realization from him that he was stuck in London, and for his own health, mental health, I think mostly, he needed to move out. And he and his flatmate then moved to Hull. There's an inner monologue which made me laugh. This one page says, "I have nothing left. This city has drained it all." This is his thoughts. "I'm just a dried up fossil of a human being." And then he says something and it's, "Fuck me, I need a beer." And as soon as he said that, I thought this caustic, real life story of him has suddenly grabbed me more than Tim's book had. As good as Tim's book is, I wanted to see that sort of thing. And it's much rougher drawing. The drawing in this is much rougher compared to Tim's very sort of clean line, clinical art. But this has something of it. There's a page in it in the end where he has a party and for people to say goodbye to him. And you can see from mixing in this crowd, we know some of them. And you can see Mark Stafford's in there and Gareth Brooks and a few other people. I would say at this point that Gareth never misses a beer, but he'll have a go at me for keep saying that, because he says, every time you talk about me on the podcast, you say I was drunk. Well, I'm not saying that this time. And it's also dedicated to Alison Brown, who obviously passed away during lockdown. It was lovely, and we know from the Cartoon Museum. Is this book perfect? No. Some of the pages are a little rough around the edges, but somehow to me it felt more honest. And that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about it. If it's just a list of events that are happening, I don't find it interesting. You know?
No.
If
Yeah.
Carefully catered to stories that follow a narrative structure just to do something, I'm again not interested. I want the life experience. It's a biography of yourself. You're the best person who can write about it. I want to see under the skin, you know?
Yeah.
I want to see a bit of the mistakes and your secrets, and I don't want it to be a Wikipedia page. Sorry.
Yeah, I also like the comedians have this great ability to have events happen to them, and they can make it into a kind of like story narrative that pulls you in, and they tell a story or a joke or something. But it's the way the story's told and how you present it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
same relative, but then like with observation put in there as well. I mean, I get a lot of that from Gareth's comics. He kind of like a spin on it, an observation. You think, well, yeah, I didn't really consider that, but that's a good point.
Yeah.
And this a kind of, even if it is mundane, a kind of a different look or a different approach. If it's just like, I got out of the bed, I had a shower, I had my cereal, and then I did this. Isn't that sad? So, okay, a dispassionate sort of retelling of your life is.
Whereas if you had this juxtaposition of someone like you're visibly seeing this, but the words are doing something else entirely.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
There's that Kevin Smith autobiography, which I read I read it about 10 years ago, I suppose. And it is painfully boring for about 200 pages about, it literally is like, this is what I watched on television. I went on the treadmill, I knocked one out. You know, it's like that.
Yeah.
And then the middle is, honestly, that's what it's like, honestly. But the middle 50 pages or so are about when Jay was on the drugs and how he had to go and search for him and find him and put him in rehab and stay with him and get him off drugs. And that is like absolutely entrancing. You get lost in that story. And that's what made the book for me. And that's what I want to see. I don't want to see like, you know, just sort of almost like a twee retelling. And you know for a fact they're leaving stuff out, you know? And I think you're right, Nick, when you say that. I think if we're going to take, and it's a brave move to write an autobiocomic, isn't it? I think if you're going to do it properly, I think if you're going to really dig down and be honest, I mean, there's stuff that I've done that you guys don't know about. You know, I'm not particularly, you know, pleased that I did in my life. And I would have to include that because it's part of the truth of it.
Yeah. Fraser Geeson did an autobiocomic a few years back now called The Cleaner, where he was talking about his job as a domestic cleaner and, you know, how much he loved it at times and how it sometimes made him feel a bit weird to be doing that job. It was really good. It was really interesting. He really dug into it.
Yeah, the human condition, man. That's what it's about. Yeah, it really is. And we all know the the fluff jobs that are done in novels, of auto-buyers. And I think we're seeing that in comics a bit now as well. People are showing their idealized social media face rather than the real them. And that's what I want to see. And
a character.
In exactly. Yeah. And I think a lot of humor, I think what you're saying, Vince, as well, is humor plays a big part as well. I think showing the humor of something shows the humanity of it a lot of the time as well. Showing yourself as ridiculous as we all are a lot of the time is a real big part of it. And that's why I think if you looked at them, in a sort of empirical way at these two books, Tim's would probably be the better because it's better drawn, it's better printed, it looks nicer. But the actual honesty of it, I think I preferred Sean's, of the two of them. Yeah. It's a funny one. And I like to think we've all got a story, we all could do it, but you could really got to reach inside yourself and write something honest, haven't you?
Yeah.
There's actually absolute skill to it. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. They're my two.
I think that will dovetail nicely into my one.
Yeah.
There's another mention in there as well. They both were the same creator. Gareth Hopkins, our last week's guest, friend of the show, creator of amazing sort of abstract books, etc. As we were talking, I actually ordered a couple of books from him last week.
Oh, good man.
First was Ghosts and Things.
I got this. This is good.
Yeah.
By Martha Hopkins and Gareth Hopkins. Yes, Gareth is the second name because Martha's the more important creator. And that's a book about ghosts and the things that they're in, and it's by Martha and Gareth and Bill, but he only did two of them. This book is hilarious, wonderful start to it. It's a lovely little art book. There's a certain almost a children's book design to it, which I love. Like, Ghost in a Book, Ghost in an Art Gallery.
I like the one you got sent through. Was it Ghost in a Plane?
That one made me laugh. Gareth sent me a message and told me, your books are on the way. I put another drawing in there because I felt like I was just... it was a very cheap joke. And I felt like... and I think he was talking about the plane one because there's no ghost. There's just a plane in the distance. Every time I look at that picture, it makes me laugh. So I've got extra value for money. The other one I got is Ghost in the subject line of a newly opened email. That's Ghosts and Things. To be honest, that could be a real branding thing for Gareth. I can imagine, pins and all kinds. It's so wonderful. But the one I wanted to sort of talk about, the other one, is The Bones of the Sea.
Yeah.
Which I also picked up, which from 2019 was from the collection Explosive Sweet Freezer Razors. As always, the best names ever, Gareth. But this is a lovely black and white, but a couple of splashes of different colour. It's a real poem, but there's autobiographical natures to it. And this is what I love about talking to creators. When Gareth was talking about reusing pages of other things to make other books, I look at his work in a different way now when I see these pages, and I can see something that there's like slight printing, errors or something. You can tell these are pages from something else that he's then repurposed and turned into new art. And I love that because it adds a complete new layer to a creator's work that's already layered enough. Do you know what I mean? You just get lost in the ink and the lines and everything. And and it's wonderfully hypnotic. There's a real techno organic quality to the artwork of this one. That I could stare at pages and my mind goes to different places. But the dialogue itself, there's two things going on. Because the back of the book says, "This is the booming and sullen doom that is to come. These are the bones of the sea." And I thought, oh, right, okay, I'm on board for some real deep poetic stuff. And certainly there is, because there's sort of there's almost two tracks of the song playing at the same time. That's the way that this book reads, because you have these real sort of almost gothic poems, where he's talking about literally bones of the sea, and it almost feels like not just a sea, but almost like cosmic. It's so weird how as I was reading it in my head it got bigger. What I was reading got bigger, and a lot of that is to do with Gareth's writing, like here's just two of the phrases from it. Here are the carcasses of monstrous worms expelled from the earth. Here are mazes of dried out marrow, once rich with blood and protein, and now just desiccated husks. You know, that's a real. It's beautiful stuff.
Marriage.
And it's. but also, this book made me laugh out loud. As well as going on like this, there's moments where he's talking about, like, he's currently writing because he's waiting for his son to finish a performance art project. He don't know what it'll be, but when his son comes out, if he's had a good one, he'll tell him about it. And there's a real day-to-day nature of it. And there was one line, and the reason that I say that Martha, she's the real creative behemoth of the family. This is one page, in amongst all of this, you know, this large language and real beautiful Gothic poetry. The page I love best. I make sandwiches for my children's lunches, enough for the week. I wrap them in foil and write their name on the foil in black marker. My daughter asks if she can write her own this week, and I hand her the marker. On each of her sandwiches, she draws a cartoon of a dead pig with the words, "I'm ham," in a speech balloon. Martha's a genius and must be cherished.
Guest.
This, I mean, The Bones of the Sea is just another example of, like, why I love Gareth's work, and it strikes me because it's not. If I'm being totally honest, you know, this sort of work that when we started this show, I may not have got it, understood it. It's you know, just it's hard to explain, isn't it, guys? That when you read Gareth's work, that it's sort of like you go from like normal TV to widescreen. Like your mind sort of does that as you're reading it. I think he's a witch and should be burned.
There's an interpretation with his work. Yeah. That, you know, it's because I almost feel like as a reader, I'm taking part in the art somehow, which I think is an interesting.
Yeah. And I think because he balances, especially with this story, because he balances the day-to-day nature of a life that you can totally understand with the other narrative that's going on, it's almost like it breathes in and out, like you're in it and you understand where it's coming from, and then it gets epic, and then you're back to the real world, and then it's out again. Like there's a real in and out sort of flow to it, and so I love it.
There's a bit in Petrichor, another great autobiographical comic.
Yeah.
When I think in the last few chapters, the art starts commenting on the text within the art in a weird back and forth way, and again, it's this feeling that it's sort of almost coming alive. It's very strange. Yeah, but it's great.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it almost moves as you're looking at it. The art sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah. So if you have not picked up any of Gareth's work, people, or looked into it, seriously, get hold of some, and if you see him at a convention, pick it up, because you have to read it for yourself. This is the Matrix moment. You can't explain it. You got to see it for yourself and experience it. So
that was before we started recording. That interesting.
People still know what I'm talking about.
Matrix.
It's the Matrix moment. They won't know what you were talking about.
I was talking about Sex Act.
Oh right. You don't. But it is now your time to recommend something, Dan.
Well, I was going through on Comic House, proud sponsors of the ACP. And reading through some titles. Let me just quickly go back to my recent list. So I read History of Comics 1977, Rebel. That was awesome. The Comic Scene Annual, I briefly flicked through that. There's so much in that one. That's a new release on there. I read Atomic Hercules once again, because it's just such a fun read. It's really, really fun. I tried reading Project New Wave, A New Wave, Volume 1, and kind of didn't really click with me. So I went on to another one, and that was Control, which came out through Dynamite Entertainment. It's written by Andy Diggle and Angela Cruikshank, art by Ben Oliver and Andrea Mutti. And it's story synopsis: Detective Sergeant Kate Burnham isn't making any friends in the Washington, D.C. Police Department. That makes her the perfect scapegoat when a routine homicide investigation threatens to blow up a criminal conspiracy reaching the upper echelons of the D.C. power elite. I think there's 5 issues in the trade I got for the first one, and I was absolutely fucking loving it. And I've left at the end of one to carry on, but it's really kind of grim, gritty. Art style's absolutely fantastic and spot on for kind of like the comic. The cover is real interesting, kind of a black with a negative space white body and a photorealistic hands and face of this guy pointing a silenced pistol at the viewer while he's got several injuries. It's a really lovely thing. I'm contemplating just buying the fucking trade as opposed to reading the rest on Comic House, because I was really impressed with what I read from the first issue. I don't want to kind of give away the kind of how it plays out, but it feels really, see, I've mentioned this before, when you start reading a comic and then it grabs you and you feel like you're there, and it's like in a police station on a gritty, grim and grimy sort of apartment building. And through the combination of the writing and the art, you feel like you're in the location with the others, and sometimes you just don't get that at all. With that, it just like grabbed me, and I'm in there, and I was really enjoying it. So if you kind of like that kind of hard-boiled kind of crime kind of stuff, Control, it might be a cup of tea. I think it's a bit of a gem, that one. My second shout out T is going to be for the Never Own Anything, the review I read.
Oh, thank you, man.
Putin's Russia, The Rise of a Dictator. You did a review of the title, and you make some really salient points. I was kind of reading through it, and the comic is kind of a retelling of kind of Putin's rise to power.
Yeah, it's kind of like a biography of him, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's crossed with a sort of. I don't know.
I sort of found you muse on this subject, but I found the release of it maybe in poor taste. What's going on? I thought
of you when I was writing it, man. So it's a book that has just come out through, I think, in America, Drawn and Quarterly, in England, in Great Britain, Myriad. And it's a big red fronted graphic novel with a picture of Putin's face holding the earth in his hand,
Yeah.
And I remember you saying to me, and being quite considered around it, I don't think I'm going to launch the next Viper because it involves the Russians being the villains in it.
Yeah.
And you said, well, I'm going to put it back because there's a lot of people in pain around this.
Yeah.
And whilst books like this, which are, honestly, I just found it a cheap cash-in, a sort of badly traced infographic stroke comic of Putin's life, just been front and center on some of the shelves. And there's a video of the creator honestly using the fact that he talks about the Crimea and Ukraine in the book as a selling point for it. And I just found that people's mileage will differ on this, but I found it quite shameless,
Yeah, it comes across as quite crass to me.
Yeah.
And when I look at the art, it does look like you've gone over a photo and just drawn lines where the mouth and nose are. I don't know. I guess, like you say, mileage may vary, but I was a fascinating review, and thanks for bringing it up.
I got a few DMs around that one. That was quite nice for people. Yeah.
I'll tell you another thing that's shameless. Our love of comic books, and we hope you enjoyed this week's episode.
Nice one, B. Yeah. Fucking hell, we've gone long today.
Have we?
Yeah.
Have we?
Well, 9:30.
We started before the 9:30, didn't we?
I don't know. Did we? I don't know. Nick, what is time when you're having fun, eh?
Yeah. Are you still there, Nick?
I don't know what time it is. No.
But we've all got to go and have a Horlicks and get tucked up in bed. So we hope you enjoyed this week's episode and everything.
Big day tomorrow, guys.
There will be a clickbaity episode title for this one, and look forward to next week's episode. We're not going to say anything more about this, but
till it happens.
Yeah, till it happens. Yeah. But yes, something to look forward to next week as well. Yes, so there's going to be plenty of comics talk in the future. Don't worry about it. If there's anything in this episode you want us to elaborate on, talk more about, if you've got any comics events or charity drives, let's use comics for good people. If you've got anything you're raising money for,
Eamon's doing some good work on DUI. Speaking of charities,
excellent,
good stuff going on around that.
Yes. Yeah. So you can email us awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter @theawesomepod, where we will be shouting out, retweeting talking about comics, etc. Stay tuned to that, because sometimes we'll ask a question of you lovely people if you do the social medias. If you do Facebook, go to facebook.com/awesomecomicspodcast. Join the community group, Awesome Comics Talk. There's a great wonderful community of people on there just talking about comics and no hard selling, as well as on the Awesome Comics Podcast Slack channel.
Yeah, it's going well. You remember, Nick, aren't you? It's a good place to be.
Yep. So sign up, join up, and just talk about comics with people that love comics. We're pro comics positivity here.
Yeah.
None of that bad mouthing shit. We do that. We do that before we actually start recording. We get all of that out, and
we don't really. We just talk about weird sex things.
Yes.
It's almost like a kind of.
Let me stop you there, Dan. Let me stop you there. No, let me stop you
from one to the other.
Yeah. But it's never schizophrenic if you go to awesomecomics.podbean.com. Which is where you may have heard the show. If you heard us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe and leave a review. Helps the algorithm, whatever kind of rhythm you have. I heard it's a dancer.
I just say something we've forgotten?
Oh yeah.
29th, Friday, drink and draw.
Be there or be square.
This Friday, when you listen to this podcast,
could you have
on Monday,
waited until I finish this sign-off bit?
No, sorry, we would have forgotten again.
Yeah, it's the drink and draw this Friday. Tom Curry will have the details at this Chucklehead on Twitter. Come along, drink, draw, or neither. Just hang out and have a good time. Check for the link later on in the week. Sorry, Vince.
What other networks are we on, Tony?
Pod, and this is inspired by Nick actually. Pod, a dark hint.
Oh dear.
Thanks, Nick.
I actually look forward.
Anytime.
I actually look forward to you writing that. Yeah.
Let's collab on that, Nick.
Yeah.
I'll give you some real darkness.
Oh God.
Lord.
God, this may be the last time anyone hears of Nick Bryan.
Cancels his Slack.
Yeah. But thank you for joining us again, Nick. Where can people find you online and your books?
nickbryan.com for the shop and some free comics, and at NickMB on Twitter is where I mostly am online.
Nice. What about the rest of you gents? Where can they find you? Tony?
neveronanything.com for all my stuff. Thank you.
Nice. Dan?
I just remembered Stank. No, you can find me on Twitter at Vanguard Comic, and you can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com.
I should fucking just edit that bit out. That's what I should do. But I
it's
won't,
as good as our bit a few weeks ago when we were shouting Dan out.
I won't be. Yeah, that made me laugh. But you should check out Vanguard Comics. He's absolutely fucking smashing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, some of the art you're putting into that at the moment, man. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
And animated bits. Yeah.
I'm trying to I keep on this will be the week where I do 2 pages, I think. But like last week I was laying a fucking floor, and don't ever do that. That's
Although
awful.
you did send us quite a sexy picture of you.
Yeah. He was genuinely laying a floor. That's not him using a euphemism, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to do a pun about me walking around with a mastic gun, and sort of like if anyone wants a, ladies mastic gun, etc. But it didn't really work out the joke. But maybe I'll put that photo up on the Patreon. So if you want to see me laying sexily on my freshly laid wooden floor,
who wouldn't?
I mean, it's one of the higher tiers, but it's worth it.
Phone suddenly explodes into life as all these notifications come.
And you kicked off Patreon. You can find me talking about Saturday Laundrette at Just the Diablo on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. We hope you have a brilliant week. Read loads of comics. Stay happy, healthy, and doing whatever you're doing. It's going to be a fun summer for comics, I think. Let's make it fun.
Yeah.
What? What was that noise, Dan? Oh, yeah. Anyway, it's that time of night that we're going to say goodbye. So we'll see you next week for more comics and fun. And from Dan, Tony, Nick, and myself, have a brilliant week. And as always, what should they do, guys?
Stay awesome.
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh, I can finally just hang up the podcasting boots. We're done. No more episodes. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Not bye for good. Probably.
No. Just bye until next week. Bye.